Hey trainers, Professor Pokemon here. It has been a long week of grading for me. We are right at the end of the semester, but I have jammed in some Retro Cup play to help me kind of decompress after a long day of work. Grading is the least favorite part of my job. I enjoy being in the classroom with students, but it is kind of tough and time-consuming to write out all of the comments on grades. But anyway, I keep trudging forward, and in my downtime, I've been playing in the Retro Cup. The Retro Cup has been a lot of fun, and I'm going to introduce a team with, I think, a spicy player whose name I'm going to mispronounce 100 million, billion, bajillion times. And that's okay, because you'll know who I'm talking about, and hopefully we all just run with it. So I'll introduce that team in just a moment, but also I wanted to offer another trivia challenge. Some of you, if you're like me, might be thinking, I remember Pokemon like Clefairy and Clefable in the original 151 Kanto group. So why is it that fairy Pokemon are excluded from the Retro Cup? Well, the answer is fairies were not actually added until later generations. Pokemon like Clefairy and Clefable were normal types in the original games. Do any of you know which generation introduced fairy-type Pokemon? You'll find out the answer at the end of this video. So in the meantime, I hope that you enjoy the battles, and I'll get back to you on that trivia challenge at the end. Here's a little bit about the team that I am running, and I hope you enjoy. So for the team that I am running for this particular set, I noticed that a lot of people have counters to dragons, but most people aren't running 2 counters to dragons. So I thought, why not try Double Dragon Team? I've been pretty beat up with Double Dragon teams in the past, and I'm getting sick of it, so now I have 3 responses to dragons, because dragons are typically weak to themselves. But I thought that I would add some extra spice with one of these players here. So Abomasnow is just generally good all around on the meta right now, because the dragons are weak to ice. And then, of course, Abomasnow has Energy Ball to hit back at things like your Jellicents and your Barbaricles and things like that. Altaria is a pretty good neutral player, because Altaria is going to be super tanky and just doing a bunch of damage with those Dragon Breath attacks. And then I have this thing, Dragalge. So I've been saying Dragalge for the last couple of weeks, just trying to sound things out on my own. And then I went to another YouTube channel and they said Dragalge. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because all of these Pokemon names are very on the nose. And look at what this is. It's super blurry now because this is a low-res image. But it's Dragalge. That's maybe 2 on the nose. I don't know how I feel about that particular name, but it is what it is, Dragalge. So that's my spicy pick. This is a new Pokemon that has only been around in Pokemon Go for a few weeks, and I've just added a secondary charge move. So we've got Dragon Tail, which does a bunch of damage as a fast move, and it builds up energy pretty quick. So we've got Aqua Tail for our kind of general neutral damage to spam people with attacks if we're in a bind. But the real true nice thing about Dragalge is this Outrage attack. You can get to Outrage pretty fast, and you're going to see in the video a couple of Pokemon get outraged. They get straight outraged, and even when that attack is resisted, it's going to do just so much damage. You'll see what I mean. Even there's a Pokemon that resists outrage that was at like 75% health, and Dragalge comes in and annihilates this thing with an outrage. So the thing to look out for is that Dragalge is pretty glassy. I mean, it goes down pretty fast, so you've got to be really careful about how you play it. And you've got to be really careful about like the Hypnos that are out there right now, because it is weak to Psychic, given that it is a part poison type. But paired together with these other Pokemon, I think it works pretty well. So Altaria is a pretty good neutral lead. And then if we get into a bind with flying types or dragon types of some kind, we have Abomasnow. And of course, Abomasnow will do neutral damage to most of the stuff that's going to threaten Dragalge or Altaria. So as long as you can handle an ice type, and usually there's just one, as long as you can handle an ice type, then these dragons are going to sweep. So that is far more talking than I normally do about the team, but I wanted you to kind of know the logics behind what I'm doing and why. Introduce Dragalge, and I guess we will just jump right into the battle set, and I will show you how this bunch worked together. So here we go with the battles. Okay, I've explained the team, so now we are hopping into the battles. Altaria, Dragalge, and Abomasnow. So we've got Altaria on the lead against an Alolan Marowak. So this is actually a pretty good lead because Shadow Bone and Shadow Ball could do a fair amount of damage. But my Fluffy Cotton Bird is going to be able to tank those no problem, and the video is moving fast, so we've already moved on. They swapped into a Dragonair, a Shadow Dragonair at that, which is pretty cool. So I can just shield once because they've already used a shield and then farm down. And this could have been bad. I was a little worried that the Abomasnow was just going to get farmed down and they were going to build up a bunch of energy on their AWAC, right? But this is a Hex AWAC, which means the Ghost-type moves are not going to do all that much. And Abomasnow is just going to keep completely spamming it with all of these Powdered Snow attacks and Weather Ball Ice attacks. So that was pretty cool. And here I get to bring in my Dragalge. Now we are taking super effective damage from those Dragon Breaths, but because I saved a shield, we can shield up once, and then that will give us enough time to get to Outrage. Yeah, we completely smashed that Altaria. Outrage is the ultimate dragon attack, and all it took was one hit to completely knock out that dumb Cotton Bird. I can't talk too much smack about Altaria because I'm using one myself. Okay, but it was fun to take it out. Here we've got the mirror match, Altaria versus Altaria, and this is generally kind of bad for me because my Altaria has sort of iffy stats. This was one that I built a long time ago when I first got back into the game, so there's going to be a community day soon. I'm just going to build another Altaria there. Swapped into my Abomasnow. Don't know if that was the best choice, but I was trying to do some super effective damage with the Powder Snows before they made their own swap. I did land an Energy Ball against their Medicham, so that was nice, but unfortunately they did get a little bit of extra farm against me there. I decided to let this go, and it was an Ice Punch and a boosted Ice Punch to boot, so that's terrible. And then they got to another charge move, so I had to shield again. I do have an Outrage ready, so if they don't block, maybe they don't know I have Outrage. They knew. They knew that I had Outrage. And they're going to get to their charge move first, which is going to be enough to take out the Altaria. So those little wings are going to take it all the way up into the clouds to Altaria Heaven, and that was a good match. That was well done by my opponent. Okay, so there are some potential problems with the team, but we can normally work around those. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. Okay, we pick up what is a generally negative lead against the old mustachioed jellyfish there, but they used Bubble Beam, which makes me think, because most of these things run Shadow Ball, maybe this Jellicent doesn't have Ice Beam, which is what would actually threaten the Altaria. So I'm thinking about what to do, and while I'm calculating, they switch out to a Swampert, and I'm thinking about, well, do I want to switch? Do I want to... but then I realized this Swampert can't do anything. This is not going to be any problem. I can just completely farm down this Swampert now and still have energy left over for whatever comes next. And I think they bring back in the Jellicent. Is that what they did? Yeah, and then I get the shield back, so no harm, no foul. And now I go into the Abomasnow because I want to be able to spam attacks. I do shield there because I thought that could be a Shadow Ball, and I definitely don't want to get hit with a Shadow Ball. So right now I just need to chip damage away and then swap in so that I can start building energy on Dragalge. So I'm going to go for the big one. And they let it through. They let the Outrage through, and that Poliwrath did not know what hit it, and it doesn't have Ice Punch. So even if they hadn't let it through, I was going to be able to get to another one. So Outrage on Dragalge is doing all kinds of damage, wreaking all the havoc against my opponents today. So that was really, really fun. Okay, here we have Altaria versus Hypno, and whether or not this is a very good matchup largely depends on whether or not this Hypno has Ice Punch. We'll see what it has. But I do get to that Sky Attack before they attack, and then I make a switch into Dragalge. Don't know if that was the wisest choice. I was kind of hoping that if they had an Ice Punch or something, I would just catch it here. And instead it was a Thunder Punch, which is resisted by Dragalge, so that's pretty cool. And now we can just spam them with these Aqua Tail attacks. So even though I go down, I have 2 shields now. Well, 1, because I don't know if this is a Shadow Ball, which it was, so good thing that I shielded there. But they definitely don't have 2 Shadow Ball attacks, because you can't charge 2 Shadow Ball attacks at the same time. You can only have 1 and like 75% of another built up. Okay, so they come in with something, a Vigoroth. All right, and I still have 1 shield, so I figure let's go ahead and use that here so that I can farm down this Vigoroth as much as possible. That was going to be really important because Abomasnow is going to have a tough time with Vigoroth, really tough time with Vigoroth. And they switch into none other than a Barbaracle. If that Barbaracle had come in just a couple of seconds sooner, it probably could have built up to a Stone Edge, and it would have been game over for me and my team. But fortunately, I was able to get to that Energy Ball first, and then we could just farm down that Vigoroth. So I imagine that was very close at the end. I think when I defeated both of those characters, they were both pretty close to their charge moves, but anyway, it worked out okay. And in this match, we are up against another Jellicent, but this time it's the Mrs. Pac-Man version. This definitely looks like Mrs. Pac-Man, right? I'm not making that up. Okay, well, if you have any other associations, you can tell me in the comments. So I am just going for Weather Ball attacks here because the Weather Ball attacks were going to do chip damage a lot more quickly to the Jellicent and to anything else that they decided to spam out. Okay, so coming back in with the Altaria, if this is Ice Punch, it'll do a lot of damage, yeah, which it was, but it's not going to do enough to KO, so it just lets me farm down and get that extra energy on my Altaria. And now we have got to a charge move before they are able to launch the move on their Jellicent. So the question here is, do I let it go and save 2 shields for the Dragalge or do something else? So I decided to farm down because if I'm lucky, I can get that last shield using the Sky Attack. Yes, so it worked out that it was a Frostlass, which is going to be pretty weak to the Sky Attack. Sky Attack was going to do a lot of damage. So I got that last shield, saved the shield for my Dragalge. Dragalge does really good when it has 1 shield because that will let it get to the Outrage attack. And look at that. Frostlass resists Dragon-type moves, and we did all the damage with that Outrage. So in this video set, you got to see 3 Pokemon get completely outraged. So Dragalge was a pretty fun, spicy choice, and I hope you had fun watching the videos. Have you figured out which generation introduced Fairy-type Pokemon? So, if you're like me, you may have been tempted to think Fairies came along pretty quickly because many of the original Pokemon were retroactively deemed Fairy types, but the answer is actually the 3rd generation. So Dragon types and Psychic types really dominated those early games, and dark types were introduced to help counter psychic types, and steel types were introduced to help counter dragon types in the second generation. But we still needed something that was going to do super effective damage to dragon types to keep them from being completely overpowered. So in Gen 3, we ended up getting the fairy type for Pokemon, and the fairy types have been with us ever since. This typing was so popular that it was retroactively applied to some of the original 151 Pokemon, such as Clefable. So I hope that's a fun piece of trivia for you, and I'll have some more fun facts about Pokemon in our next video. I'll talk to you next time, trainers.